Thanks for joining me in Talking Over Old Times. This is Don Trosper. I'm the Public History Manager for the Untitled Tumwater Foundation. In this session, I want to take us back to the very beginnings of American settlement here in the Pacific Northwest. The year was 1844, and it was the very early days of the famous Oregon Trail. At the time, there was a competition between the United States and Great Britain for control of the Pacific Northwest. The British, through the Hudson Bay Company, had control of the north side of the Columbia River with their big trading post, Fort Vancouver. The Americans were settling the Willamette Valley on the south side of the river. Many pioneers were arriving either by ship around the Horn of South America or by land over the Oregon Trail. In either case, we can say the history of the West begins in the east. The first American settlement north of the Columbia was at Tumwater, on the southern tip of Puget Sound. It was founded by a small group of close-knit friends and families in Clay County, Missouri, who had heard about the richness of the Oregon Territory. Together, they decided to sell everything they had, pack their necessities onto ox-drawn covered wagons, and head west into the raw wilderness. Now, if we were to take the interstate highways today, we could easily make the trip in 3 days. In 1844, it took from May to December, nearly 8 months of struggle and sacrifice. They didn't arrive at their new home at the tip of Puget Sound until the following fall of 1845. So the question arises, why would families take on such risk for such a grueling trip? Well, a major consideration was the economy. Midwest farming was quite difficult to find success, with weather, fluctuating crop prices, insects, and very hard winters. The promise of a mild, rich new land and a fresh start sounded very good to those folks. There were other reasons too. One was patriotism. President Polk was pushing the idea of manifest destiny, that the U.S. should rightfully stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast, and they wanted families to settle there to help validate our claims. Therefore, they offered free land to the early settlers. The stories that Michael T. Simmons and the rest heard were that the soil was so rich and the climate so mild that you could throw a seed out your window and it would sprout. Another major reason for the Tumwater founders to make the trip was what you might call a sign of the times: racism. One of the key members of the group, a kind-hearted gentleman and generous friend, George Bush, was part black. And in pre-Civil War Missouri, this seemed like a wise way to escape discrimination and own his own farm. Did it work? Well, click on to more Talking Over Old Times to hear more.